So we're doing exercise 5b, and in this video I'm going to be answering question 7d, which tells us that we need to sketch the graphs of each of the following relations stating the implied domain and range of each. So here we have y equals the square root of 25 minus x squared. Immediately upon seeing this, we know that it is a semicircle, And not only do we know it's a semicircle, but we also know some properties about it. The fact that it is a positive square root, so we have a plus there, means that it is going to be the top half of my circle. This 25 tells me that it's going to have a radius of 5, and I also know that it's going to have a center at 0, 0. So I can tell that just by looking at it. Now, if you had any issues figuring out all of this, what you could do is put this into a standard equation for a circle. So in that case, what I would do, let me get rid of this. If I squared both sides, I would end up with y squared equals 25 minus x squared. I then could bring this minus x squared over to the other side by plussing each side by plus x squared. So I'm going to get x squared plus y squared equals 25. Now that it's in this form, it's quite clear that I'm dealing with a circle which has a radius of 5 because of this and is centered at 0, 0. Once again, if you're having issues as to why it's centered at 0, 0, it's because we're comparing it to our standard form, which is here, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where my h and k is my center and my r squared is my radius. So another way that I could write this would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 5 squared. So now it's very clear that my center will be 0, 0, and my radius is 5. So with all this information now, I can sketch it. But it's so very important that we realize that all of this working out was just so we could appreciate what this looks like. We're still dealing and we're graphing this with the square root, because this is telling me that we're graphing a semicircle. If you were to graph this, you would graph the entire circle. So it's very important that you realize that this is really just helping us to understand what this semicircle is going to look like. Don't go and draw a circle. We're doing a semicircle here. Okay, so I'm going to grab my pen and I'm going to put in some points. So firstly, we know that the center is at 0, 0, which is here. Then I'm going to write in 0, 0. We also know that it has a radius of 5, which means it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up this way, 5 here. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way, negative 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way. Once again, let's remind ourselves that because it's a positive square root, it's going to be the top half of my circle. So now when I come to sketch it, it's going to look like this. It's centered at 0, 0. And as you can see, it's centered at 0, 0 and has a radius of 5. Perfect. Now that we have drawn it, we need to figure out what my implied domain is and my range. Hopefully, by looking at this, you can see that for my domain, which is the set of all possible x values, you can see that this relation only makes sense for where my x is equal to negative 5 all the way to 5. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write that my domain is negative 5 to 5. Now, we don't have to write it like this. We could write it another way. We could say, or we could write it as negative 5 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 5. Both ways are legitimate. It's just what you prefer. Now we have to write down what my range is. My range is all my y values. And as you can see here, my first y value is going to be 0. And then it's going to go all the way up to 5. So my range is going to be 0 to 5. And once again, I could write it another way. I could say that my range is 0 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 5. So make sure you put a y here when we're talking about range. So we've now completed 7D. We sketched the graph. We wrote down what the domain and range is. Hopefully this was helpful to you.